The wilds of Alaska are a vast and untamed frontier.
Alaska is beautiful and dangerous all at the same time, and it can turn on you in an instant.
Amid the rugged wilderness, people vanish at an eerily high rate.
People that come to Alaska are either escapists or escapees.
One by one, a madman is preying on the women of Anchorage.
There was rumblings about possibly serial killer preying on the streets of Anchorage. It was like a ghost story.
He enjoys the complete helplessness of his victims. He wanted to hear the terror in her voice.
Police are pulled into a deadly game to try and solve one of the most infamous cases in America. Miles northeast of Anchorage, the Knik River Valley is a premier hunting ground. On a brisk September afternoon in 1982, two police officers on their day off are hunting for wild game along the banks of the Winding Gorge.
Alaska is definitely a hunter's paradise. For a hunter from the lower 48, this is really the pinnacle of their hunting career.
As darkness falls, without a kill, the men decide to head home. But while hiking back to their campsite, they make a chilling discovery.
They knew enough not to disturb the scene of that crime and backed away and got the troopers up there.
Alaska State Troopers arrive in force. They cordon off the area and begin excavating the scene. The officers unearth the partial remains of a woman buried in a shallow grave. They also find bones scattered across the surrounding area.
If you have some kind of animal or a bear that comes into your crime scene prior to you getting there, they're liable to drag off most, if not all, of your evidence of the crime you're investigating.
There is no ID on the woman. Was she a hiker who lost her way? Or did she unknowingly walk into the path of something more ominous?
A lot can kill you in Alaska. The wildlife can kill you. The climate can kill you. Your own incompetence can kill you. And your fellow man, without a doubt.
Investigators sift through the sand like archaeologists, hoping to discover evidence that might shed some light on the case. Hours later, they find their first clue. The shell casing of a single bullet, a .223 caliber used in high-powered rifles. But this is no hunting accident. To police, it looks like an execution. Handcuffs and ace bandages found among the remains lead investigators to suspect the victim had been bound and blindfolded at the time of death. At autopsy, the coroner determines the woman died of 3 gunshot wounds. Using dental records, she is identified as 24-year-old Sherry Morrow, a dancer at the Wild Cherry Bar on the notoriously seedy side of Anchorage, known as 4th Avenue.
There's assaults, robberies, burglaries, all kinds of stuff. There's drugs, it's a big drug area, probably our biggest high crime area of the town. There's been several homicides since I've been on in the past 3.5 years.
It was just one long series of bars and strip clubs, seedy hotels that you could rent by the hour. There was cars all over the place, stopping, picking girls up.
Sherry was drawn to the wilds of Alaska by the lucrative promise of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline.
It was sort of a perfect storm. And it was just wild and woolly with the construction going on, all kinds of people moving in. We had an awful lot of money flowing around because the oil was flowing.
Lured by easy money, Sherry wound up on 4th Avenue, a part of town where men who work the pipeline like to spend their cash and blow off steam.
There was roughnecks, GIs, prostitutes, pimps, and the smell of money. And they had the triangle trade going, and that was the pimps and the bar owners running the girls from the West Coast to Alaska to Hawaii. So you had this constant turnover of young girls out there on the street. It made it easy to disappear in the crowd.
Police pour through the stacks of missing persons reports of other girls who worked 4th Avenue and disappeared.
It's no big deal when they disappear. The police get a little nervous about it, but unless they have some evidence that a crime was committed, they would tend at that time to assume that the person just left town.
Before the discovery of Sherry Morrow's body, none of the missing persons reports seemed to be linked, nor did they seem to suggest murder. But Morrow's death is enough to force investigators to take another look at the cold case files. 2 years before Morrow's body was found, construction workers digging near Oklutna Road along the Kanik River make a startling discovery.
Oklutna is a pretty remote area. There was one road that went up toward the valley, but you could walk 200 yards off the road and you were in wilderness, real wilderness.
Hey, Gary, come over here.
There, the men discover the partial remains of a woman buried in a shallow grave. The scene has been so decimated by animals that police can't find enough evidence to make an ID.
And if it's an old scene, it's been there a while, there's the elements, the changing temperatures, the thawing and freezing, possible predation on a grave. With those things in mind, you're going to lose a lot of evidence. You just have to deal with it. You just have to expand your search and find the evidence that's gone missing. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes that's not.
Looks like an airing.
The victim is dubbed Oklutna Annie by police.
They didn't know who she was. There was no way to tie her to anybody. There was no missing report that matched her. She was unknown.
Desperate for answers, police turned to a forensic artist for help. Using Annie's skull as a guide, the artist shapes a clay mold to reveal Annie's facial features. Police then take photos and distribute the image throughout the area. A crime scene investigator scours the scene for clues and turns up a single piece of evidence identical to that found in the Morrow case.
After they pulled the body out, he took a screen and was panning for bullets, basically, just like he panned for gold. He was sifting through all the sand and mud in the river until he came up with a bullet fragment and an empty cartridge from a .223 rifle.
But no one ever comes forward with any information on the identity of Oklutna Annie.
Nobody cared about her. And that would be typical in the prostitution trade.
But now, with 2 bodies hidden in the wilderness, murdered by a similar hunting rifle, police are faced with a terrible possibility. Someone is hunting women in the wilds of Alaska.
Dave, I just saved a ton of money at Staples. Great job, Dave. Suck up.
In a small business, it's all you. That's why you have us. At Staples, we have low prices on everything your small business needs. Staples, that was easy.
What's the beat that moves your heart? How about the beat of a healthy heart? Campbell's Healthy Request Soup is delicious and earned this heart for being heart healthy. Feel the beat? It's amazing what soup can do.
Get out of my underwear, you freak!
Back inside now.
Real good job you're doing.
Only one movie is winning over critics and audiences alike. The Descendants is the Golden Globe Award winner for Best Picture and Best Actor George Clooney.
I'm just trying to keep my head above water.
And now it's been nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Picture of the Year.
We're gonna make it out okay. You and Scotty and me.
The Descendants, rated R, everywhere Friday.
Oh, I see. A throne for the TV, room for movies, your workout gear, nonstop football. It's a man cave. The boys next door will never leave. Who says we want them to?
Bacon? Gotta get that bacon! Bacon?
Bacon!
Smoky bacon, meaty bacon, tasty bacon!
Bacon? Ooh la la.
I say, is that bacon? Bacon? Bacon!
Who wants a bacon strip?
Me! I get it myself, but I don't have some! Yum, 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 yum. It's bacon! I love you. I love bacon, I love you. I love bacon, I love you.
Bacon strips, made with real bacon. There's no time like begging time.
Ew. Hey, Mom.
What? Pay you?
For what?
For unloading the dishwasher? Kid, you need to pay me for making this delicious meal.
Hold on there, Mom. Kitchen counselor. Mom, I think what she means is greasy dishes. Yeah. In fact, check it out. Cascade Complete Packs are the ones with the real liquid top. They fight tough, greasy messes better than the other tablet, which can leave more tough grease behind.
Ooh, clean.
There's only one Cascade. Love it or your money back.
If you're living with diabetes and have Medicare or private insurance, here is some great news. Call United States Medical Supply today, and we'll send you the smallest glucose meter in the world, absolutely free. So small, it fits right on the bottle of strips.
It only takes a speck of blood, and it gives me my results in 5 seconds. I can even test it on my arm.
And there's no coding for easier, more accurate results.
And if you call now, we'll also send you this stylish full-featured meter at no charge. That's 2 free meters. You can keep one in your pocket and leave the other one at home.
You can even hook it up to your computer so your doctor can track your results.
United States Medical Supply also delivers prescription medication right to my door, so I don't have to go to the drugstore anymore.
Don't let diabetes get in the way of living. Give us a call today at United States Medical Supply and get the smallest meter in the world for free. Call today.
Thursday on an all-new Sins and Secrets. They were high school sweethearts.
She talked about him as the man she had always loved.
But when her husband, a decorated Air Force captain, is found murdered, a fellow officer is accused.
He was a trained Army sniper.
And when police discover he's having an affair with the captain's wife, she is nowhere to be found.
Why would she run? Why would she get plastic surgery?
Sins and Secrets, all new Thursday at 9, followed by an all-new Stalked on Investigation Discovery.
When the decaying bodies of women begin appearing in the wilds of Alaska, police fear they are dealing with a brutal killer who has set his sights on the women of Anchorage. The mysterious murder of Sherry Morrow, an exotic dancer, prompts police to take a closer look at who might have wanted the young woman dead.
How long have you worked here? Check back later.
Sherry's co-workers remember she was approached by a stranger that night. A man who offered to pay her $300 to pose for photos. The dancers remember Sherry was brimming with excitement about her first modeling job. But they can't provide police a name or any further information about the mystery man. Sherry left to meet the man the following night as planned, and was never seen alive again.
Her roommate reported her missing, and there was an investigation, but there was no evidence that she had done anything. In fact, she might have left town.
But Sherry's co-workers fear the worst.
There were a lot of girls that were disappearing, and the police were very nervous about it, but they didn't have anything to go on. There were no witnesses, nobody would say anything. Most of these women were very much living on the fringe.
Over the past several years, 5 other missing persons cases had been reported. All involved topless dancers or young prostitutes. and each remained unsolved.
I mean, you're chasing ghosts. And in 90% of the cases, the girls were transient. And if somebody got reported missing, it was like, hey, go look for them down in Portland. Or they're over in Honolulu, or they're in Los Angeles dancing. You know, that's where they're at, go look for them. It's not our problem.
As Anchorage police begin to compare notes, they suspect Sherry Morrow and Eklutna Annie's deaths may not be isolated incidents. Officers reopen records on the missing women. They report the disappearances to police departments in the lower 48 and take a closer look at the names of more than 30 suspects, including boyfriends, bartenders, and aggressive Johns.
They were in it for the money, and they were victims from the very beginning. Everybody preyed upon those girls. The pimps, the bar owners, everybody preyed on those girls.
All police have to go on is a single common thread. Each of the victims had last been seen after a late-night shift. Police re-question the missing women's co-workers and gain their first solid lead. Several dancers recall seeing the same strange man. Each describes him as a red-haired man in his 40s who had been frequenting the clubs along 4th Avenue.
It was fertile ground, and it was just a perfect setup for somebody that was a psychopathic killer that could prey on innocent, helpless girls that had no options.
Police increased their efforts to question anyone who came in contact with the missing girls. Surprisingly, all of the men in the girls' lives check out, and none fit the description of the red-haired man. There are also no reported sightings of the women anywhere outside of Alaska. Police fear they're one step behind a cunning and sadistic killer, and they may not catch him before he sets his sights on his next victim. Police also learn of a third body recovered in a gravel pit in the same area where Annie's body was found.
What do you got down there?
We got a sleeping bag down here. Got a phone, I think we may be able to ID her.
The victim is identified as Joanne Messina, a cannery worker who was last seen leaving the dock with her dog, and a red-haired man her co-workers couldn't identify. But something about the case doesn't add up. Investigators determined Messina had been shot and killed with a .22, not a .223 hunting rifle. But her body had been badly ravaged by bears and yielded no further clues.
You know, we're not the top of the food chain here. Wildlife can get you, and wildlife will get rid of the evidence.
In addition, 3 other dancers had vanished under similar circumstances. None were ever seen again, and their bodies were never found.
There was rumblings in the police community about possibly serial killer roaming and preying on the streets of Anchorage. And there was nothing concrete. It was more like a ghost story. They've got bodies and evidence and a dead end. They have nowhere to go. They're stumped.
And if a serial killer is on the prowl, he could be hiding anywhere in the wilds of Alaska. Roy Hazelwood is an expert at reading the criminal mind by examining the evidence they leave behind. The blindfolds found at the scenes tell him a lot about their killer.
He enjoys the complete helplessness of his victims. They're totally under his control. He didn't gag the victim because he wanted to hear the terror in her voice. He wanted to hear her pleading. The killer was a sexual sadist.
A hunter who derived pleasure from his victim's pain and relied on the remote Alaskan wilderness to conceal his deadly act.
Within a very short driving time and even shorter flying time, a killer could take a victim and just carry out whatever fantasies he had with the victim without being concerned about being interrupted or observed. When he disposed of the body, it's in, again, isolated territory, and that makes it very difficult for a homicide investigator.
But the killer left a trail.
The location suggested very strongly that an outdoorsman would have been involved in a crime because he felt comfortable within that type of environment.
Nine months after the discovery of Sherry Morrow's body, a truck driver is on his way to work when, out of nowhere, he's suddenly startled by the sight of a frantic woman in the middle of the road. The driver screeches to a stop. He notices a shadowy figure with a gun duck out of sight as the woman rushes the cab and pleads with him for help.
He was a citizen on his way to work, and he saw her running out into the street with handcuffs on. Obviously not something you see very often at 5 o'clock in the morning on your way to work. And he picked her up.
Visibly shaken and trembling from fear as much as the frigid night air, the young woman tells the trucker a tale almost too bizarre to believe.
And she got in way over her head. And she was one lucky young lady. And she was just an engine start away from losing her life.
Thursday on an all-new Stalked. A teen assaults his girlfriend so he can get into a gang.
I'm scared out of my mind.
To keep her quiet, his fellow gang members torment her daily.
They told me that if I ever told anyone, they would have my family killed.
And she fears for her life when they ambush her in an isolated parking lot.
She thought they were going to break the windows and do God knows what to her.
Stalked. Someone's watching. All new Thursday at 10, only on Investigation Discovery.
It's simple physics. A body at rest tends to stay at rest, while a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Staying active can actually ease arthritis symptoms, but if you have arthritis, staying active can be difficult. Prescription Celebrex can help relieve arthritis pain so your body can stay in motion, because just one 200 milligram Celebrex a day can provide 24-hour relief for many with arthritis pain and inflammation. Plus, in clinical studies, Celebrex is proven to improve daily physical function so moving is easier. And Celebrex is not a narcotic. When it comes to relieving your arthritis pain, you and your doctor need to balance the benefits with the risks. All prescription NSAIDs like Celebrex, ibuprofen, naproxen, and meloxicam have the same cardiovascular warning. They all may increase the chance of heart attack or stroke, which can lead to death. This chance increases if you have heart disease or risk factors such as high blood pressure or when NSAIDs are taken for long periods. NSAIDs, including Celebrex, increase the chance of serious skin or allergic reactions or stomach and intestine problems such as bleeding and ulcers, which can occur without warning and may cause death. Patients also taking aspirin and the elderly are at increased risk for stomach bleeding and ulcers. Do not take Celebrex if you've had an asthma attack, hives, or other allergies to aspirin, NSAIDs, or sulfonamides. Get help right away if you have swelling of the face or throat or trouble breathing. Tell your doctor your medical history and find an arthritis treatment for you. Visit Celebrex.com and ask your doctor about Celebrex for a body in motion.
What makes the Sleep Number store different? The Sleep Number bed.
With a Sleep Number bed, it's not about soft or firm, it's about support where you find it most comfortable.
The magic of this bed is that you're sleeping on something that conforms to your individual shape.
In a traditional mattress, there is no adjustment. You get what you're buying that day.
With our bed, you change the setting to something you like.
This way, if you change your mind once you get home, you can adjust it.
Oh, wow, that feels really good. It's hugging my body.
You can adjust it to whatever your needs are.
Your body changes over time.
The bed can adapt with you.
Not only does it work for you today, but it's going to work for you 20 years from now. So whatever you feel like, the Sleep Number bed's going to provide it for you.
And now, the company that redefines sleep is redefining memory foam. Save $400 on our all-new memory foam bed, the only bed that combines cool, contouring gel foam with Sleep Number adjustability. And stock up and save on our exclusive bedding collection at our White Sale, only at the Sleep Number store, where queen mattresses start at just $6.99.
I'm just a bit of residue left behind by some wop. Why, you? Nobody's taken a shine to me in a long time. Phooey, I don't need anybody but you.
Swiffer attracts dirt. Used mops can push muddy water around. Swiffer WetJet's new upgraded solution helps prevent streaks and residue to reveal more shine than a mop or your money back.
You're a fresh Swiffer snapper.
Hoveround takes me where I want to go. Where will it send me?
One call to Hoveround and you'll be singing too. Pick up the phone and call Hoveround, the premier power chair. Hoveround makes it easier for you than any other power chair. Hoveround is more maneuverable to get you through the tightest doors and hallways. More reliable. Hoveround employees build your chair, deliver your chair, and will service your chair for as long as you own your chair. And most importantly, 9 out of 10 people got their Hoveround for little or no cost. Call now for your free DVD and information kit.
You don't really have to give up living because you don't have your legs. Hoveround replace the legs.
And now, every Hoveround comes with this handy tote bag and cup holder for access to your favorite items. And right now, get this limited edition Hoveround America travel mug, free with your Hoveround delivery.
Hoveround takes me where I want to go.
Call or log on to hoveround.com to find out where a Hoveround can take you.
Call 1-800-941-9762. 1-800-941-9762.
Thursday on an all-new Sins and Secrets. They were high school sweethearts.
She talked about him as the man she had always loved.
But when her husband, a decorated Air Force captain, is found murdered, a fellow officer is accused.
He was a trained Army sniper.
And when police discover he's having an affair with the captain's wife, she is nowhere to be found.
Why would she run? Why would she get plastic surgery?
Sins and Secrets, all new Thursday at 9, followed by an all-new Stalk on Investigation Discovery.
A trucker on his way to work stops to help a frightened young woman after she darts into the middle of the road, frantically summoning help. The trucker takes her to a nearby motel where she'll be safe and calls police. Anchorage police race to the motel. There they find a 17-year-old woman still in handcuffs and very much in shock. Police question her, and she recounts the same wild story she told the trucker. She tells the officers she's a topless dancer down on 4th Avenue and claims she'd been propositioned the night before by a red-haired man in his 40s.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good evening. She's like 17, beautiful young woman. Got into the trades probably for the same reason everybody else does. It was easy money.
She further confesses that she accepted the stranger's offer.
I'm not sure what he wanted to do, whether it was a photographic session or if he wanted to have sex with her, but in any case, they left together.
Once inside the man's car, she claims he pulled a gun on her.
And she said at that point he kidnapped her. He handcuffed her and told her that if she cooperated and did what he wanted her to do, that she wouldn't be hurt.
Her abductor then takes her to a house in the middle-class neighborhood of Muldoon. He holds her hostage in a basement filled with the mounted heads of animals and brutalizes her for hours.
How do you like the decor?
She said he chained her in the basement to a beam, and she was there for quite a while he repeatedly assaulted her.
She tells the police the man then decided to fly her to his cabin in the woods,
To his cabin.
promising to release her if she cooperates. Once they arrive at the airstrip, the kidnapper shoves her inside a small plane and begins loading supplies. The second he turns his back, she makes her escape. to corroborate her account. Investigators take her to Merrill Field, the airstrip from which she claimed